Join me today while we create an easel calendar that fits in an A2 envelope. Because of the thickness of the calendar, we're going to make the overall dimensions a little smaller. The card base is going to be only 4 inches wide and 10.5 inches long. We will need to cut off a 1/2 inch from our 11-inch piece of paper. Now we are going to score it at 5.25 inches. Next, we are going to make the support structure underneath the card that will keep it standing up. It is 3.5 by 4 inches. We are going to need to score this 3 times. It will be a 1/2 inch from each end, and then again in the middle, which is at 2 inches. Now fold the center score line and burnish it. Then fold the 2 1/2-inch pieces upwards so it's in a W formation. Use your scoring tool or bone folder to burnish these folds so they are really bent. Now fold your card base in half and use the bone folder to burnish the score line. Our card is going to be like an A-frame sandwich board. So let's glue that support structure to the inside of the card. Here I am adding some double-sided tape. It's really narrow, and that's going to be so that we can quickly adhere it. But I'm also adding a wet glue. That way it has staying power and it will be a completely permanent bond. Just put it in the middle. I'm grabbing this piece of cardstock so that I have a high contrast area and I can see, and you can see, how to line it up. And I put it right along the edge. And in this one, I forgot to remove the double-sided tape. You kind of have to do that before you put the wet glue down, otherwise your fingers get really messy. So here I did remove the double-sided tape and added the wet glue, and then I will press down the other side of the card base. The reason why you need this little mechanism is that the card is fairly heavy with the calendar on it, and if you want to add an alternative pocket or optional pocket, you're going to need something so that the calendar doesn't flatten out over time. Here you see my mat is already cut, and it is 1/4 inch smaller than the card base, which it would be 3 3/4 by 5 inches. I'm using some wet glue to adhere it. You can use your favorite adhesive, even double-sided tape. Wet glue is just really economical and fairly quick. Just center it on the card base. There should be 1/8 of an inch around all 4 edges of the white showing. I have already pre-stamped and pre-cut things for this, but for the most part you want to put your calendar on first, or at least pre-size and arrange everything. I know that my calendar needs to go within 1/8 inch of the bottom because this is a little bit smaller than an A2 card. Once again, I like to use wet glue for this because it is super strong. Here I'm just going to hold it down for a few seconds to make sure that the glue really bonds. In real life, I would probably set a couple large blocks from my stamping blocks on it so that it would be held down. But for the sake of this video, I just held it down for 5 or 10 seconds. I am adding foam dimensionals behind the sentiment piece. I like to do this because the calendar is already pretty thick and you want to have a balance of thickness from the top to the bottom. I also just love foam dimensionals and the way it makes things look. These die cuts are from the paper pack Cute as a Bug. There are coordinating dies in the Stamp and Die bundle that actually cut the images on one of the sheets of DSP. I am now just adding some 3D foam or dimensional pieces, mostly scraps from the edge of the dimensional sheet, to these die cuts so that there's a little bit more dimension. And then with the snowdrop, it's going to be overlapping part of the sentiment piece that's already popped up. And so I'm putting dimensionals where it's hitting the blue background. And then I'm going to use a glue dot, which these come in our card kits, and it's going to attach to the sentiment piece. So here you can see it stands up, and the glue is dry, and it will never go sploot on your desk because of that little stand. Of course, my mind goes 1,000 different directions when I'm recording a video, and I almost forgot my favorite part, and that is the embellishments. The Cute as a Bug suite has these adorable little epoxy ladybugs, and I'm adding a couple to the card, plus some little water droplets. I'm using the pointy end of the Take Your Pick tool, which can usually scoop underneath an embellishment and pick it up and help you place it onto your card. Now let's do a final fit check to make sure that it fits in our A2 envelope. I want to remind you that this may take extra postage due to its weight and thickness. You might want to go to the post office and have them measure it before you send it out. Here's a close-up of the final project. You can see the shine from the epoxy ladybugs. Here's a few more pictures of other calendars I created. These are the full A2 card size. I did not scale them down, nor was I able to fit them into an A2 envelope. I'm Layla Harris, also known as Crafty Layla, a lifelong crafter and Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Please comment, like, and subscribe so you can see more upcoming videos. Thank you for watching.